Good morning, Facebook. It is Friday, October 15th, 9 a.m. I just got back from my trip to Digital Dealer, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the problem that the industry faces with lead follow-up and customer experience. There are really two big issues that I've seen most dealers struggle with. So I'm going to give a little bit of a background on what led me to this problem. So I'd been in the car business a long time. I've always sold leads and other types of lead generation products to car dealers and relied on salespeople to set appointments on those leads and follow up with those leads. So it's been my life focus to provide tools and resources to help salespeople convert those leads, or accountability tools to help monitor if they are doing what needs to be done. When we started Tacoby 6 years ago, I started as a Facebook marketing company, and I built a basic text messaging platform that we could connect to Facebook ads. We started to get tons of leads coming into the software, and we were getting really good communication with customers that wanted to purchase vehicles. And we got tons and tons of leads, and in the first year we signed up a lot of dealers. After the first year, in the span of about 3 months, we lost a good portion of those dealers, just disappeared. We had like 150 clients with 45 employees, and about 100 of those dealerships canceled. We got down to about 50 clients and 4 employees. And Scarlett and myself are basically sitting there scratching our head, wondering, why did we lose all these clients? What was wrong? I had an Amex card that had a $20,000 limit on it, and it was kind of my last defense to try and save the company. So I looked at Scarlett and I said, honey, I can advertise with this 20 grand to try and find new clients, or I can take this Amex card and travel around the country to visit our clients. And I wanted to figure out what was working, what wasn't working. So I had the bright idea of using it to travel, but also using Facebook Live and pictures and, posting that to advertise as well. So I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So we decided to send me on the road, and for about a year, I was in multiple dealerships per week. I traveled to, 20, 25 states, and every size dealership, from largest Ford store in Texas, to small used car stores with chain links, around the lot. I went out to the dealerships with the intention of being upset at the salespeople. I was, why aren't you calling leads? Why aren't you following up with the leads? Going out thinking that I could motivate them to follow up on the leads. And that was my intention when I started traveling, and my mindset when I started traveling to visit dealerships. Quickly, after a few dealerships, I started to realize that there was a repeating pattern, that I'd go into a sales meeting and there'd be a sales manager or GSM or general manager, running the meeting. And they were obviously agitated and, jumping on their staff about how many phone calls they made, and, what leads have they followed up with. And they typically had some kind of minimum number of phone calls that need to be made, whether it's 20, 30, 40, whatever the dealership was requiring. I'd see the frustrated general sales manager, desk manager, whoever it was, up there telling everyone that they've got to do this. And then I just see the morale decline from the sales staff as they were being told to do something that either they didn't want to do, or they didn't feel was going to be productive with their time, or whatever the case was. And they'd go sit down at their computer, and they'd click buttons and make phone calls with no one answering the phone. I quickly realized that it wasn't a people problem. Here I was in these meetings, and sometimes with new sales guys that went to the thrift store to get their suit and wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning to be at the dealership and have a general sales manager jumping down their throat about the phone calls or whatever tasks they needed to complete inside the CRM. So I realized it wasn't a people problem, it was more of a process problem and a technology problem. The car business has really gotten addicted to aggressive and pushy sales tactics and those new leads that are coming in every single month. The problem is many customers are submitting their information long before they're ready to purchase a vehicle. And I'll give an example of someone that I talked to yesterday. Their lease is going to expire in 6 months. They know that there's an inventory crunch, and they want to reach out and start seeing what's available and, start organizing what they're going to do in 6 months when their lease is up. But this person was afraid to do that because they know that the second they submit a lead, they're going to get pummeled with aggressive and pushy sales tactics from dealers. We're so focused on that every new lead that we get in this month that we push as hard as we can. There's dealers that are pricing their inventory at a loss, adding addendums to upsell the customer when they come into the dealership. Everything from word tracks and really just aggressive and pushy sales tactics that if you're that lease customer that wants to find out some information about their car in 6 months when their lease is up, you're afraid to reach out to the dealers at this point. And that's what's pushing customers to a Tesla or Vroom or what we call digital retail buying process, is they just don't want to deal with the aggressive and pushy sales tactics of the dealerships. For the longest times, OEMs have gauged CSI off of customers that purchased vehicles. We really need to start judging, and I think the OEMs might be hip to this, that we need to start judging not the people that purchased a car, but the people that didn't purchase a car. What caused them to not purchase a car? Why didn't they want to buy from that dealership? And measure and gauge if the dealers are treating customers the way that they should be treated. Now you're thinking, well, if I don't have aggressive and pushy sales tactics, how am I going to sell cars? How am I going to keep my volume where it needs to be? And the answer to that lies in the process between BDC and sales, or lead handling and sales, whoever's doing a lead handling. The process that we have in traditional CRMs right now have been built around that aggressive and pushy sales tactic, and trying to extract as many car deals out of the new leads that they received this month instead of the overall leads that they've received that they're currently working. And it doesn't allow for extended follow-up. There's so many tasks that are being created inside of a CRM that you get a month into it, and there's just a massive number of tasks that everyone on your team has to complete. And oftentimes these tasks are things that are not resulting in much fruit because the customers aren't answering the phone when you call them. You just got out of your sales meeting, you go sit down at your computer, your boss told you to make your 30 phone calls, you're calling, none of those people want to talk on the phone, you're going through your task, and you just kind of waste your time doing that. So without the proper follow-up, you have to be aggressive and pushy. There's no other option, because you're living off of the new leads that are coming in and extracting everything you can out of them. When you extend your follow-up window, you don't have to be as aggressive and pushy, and I'll explain why. The majority of a lot of our clients have been with us, 2, 3 years, 4 years, some of them 5 years at this point. And we've got some pretty solid pipelines of dealerships leads, not just Facebook leads, but all the leads that are coming into the dealership. We have isolated that the average time from lead to sale is 43 days when you do an extended follow-up with customers, and you're able to follow up with them until they're ready to purchase a vehicle. And sometimes that could be 1 month, it could be 1 day, it could be a year before they're ready to purchase a vehicle. But if you can find a way to follow up with them thoroughly, not some secondary follow-up process where they're just getting emails from you, but really follow up with the customer and make them feel like a person is following up with them, you start to eliminate the need for extracting customers out of the new leads that you're getting into the dealership. The reason why is, we call it the working pipeline. And to explain the working pipeline, you got to imagine a ping pong table, And if we break sales down into its most basic form, we're just basically question and answer game, right? So we've got the dealership over here. We've got the customer here. What kind of car do you need? I need a truck. What do you have currently? I've got an F-150. How many miles does it have? 50,000 miles. Do you need financing? Yes, I do. Can you fill out this credit app? Here's my credit app. You know, what kind of trade do you have? I've got a, whatever it is. Do you like this value? No, I don't. Why'd you miss your appointment on Saturday? Can you come in on Tuesday? And we're hitting this ping pong ball with these questions and answers back and forth with the customers. So the working pipeline in our system is anyone that we've hit the ping pong ball to and has not replied. We've asked them a question and they haven't replied. Often what happens in this ping pong ball game is we hit the ping pong ball to the customer and the customer just ghosts us. We don't know why they're ghosting us because they're not answering the phone or replying to our text messages or replying to our emails. We were somewhere in the process of selling them a car, but they turned into a ghost and we don't know why. And that's 80 to 90% of the work inside of the CRM is following up with those customers that we've hit the ping pong ball to them, and they're not replying to us for some reason. That's why dealerships even have BDCs, is because we know that there's car deals inside of those customers that aren't answering the phone, and our sales guys are too ADD to sit down at a computer and do the follow-up. So we hire BDC people that we pay a little less money. They're better at completing tasks and doing things inside of software. But typically you're not going to get someone who's good at sitting at a computer and completing tasks and good at sales. You kind of have one or the other. Obviously there's unicorns, but the vast majority of times a good salesperson isn't going to be good at sitting down at a computer and clicking buttons and following up with people. So we had the bright idea as an industry to come up with BDC. The BDC people would do the busy work that the sales team isn't doing, and it resulted into, hey, we don't want our BDC talking about car deals because now we know we've got people that aren't the greatest at sales. And I'm not saying BDC people aren't great at sales, but it's a different type of person that is going to be good at completing tasks. And we've got someone that doesn't really know how to talk about car deals, and often it's because we didn't train them to do that, and we're trying to shelter them from knowing too much about a car deal because the mindset is we don't want them to mess up the car deal. It also creates a lot of conflict between sales and BDC because if the BDC is talking too much about the car deal and the customer comes in and the BDC said something they shouldn't have, it can make it a really hard time for the salesperson to work that deal. So we hired these BDC people. They're doing this follow up on these leads. But even with a strong BDC, we're still unable to keep up with the proper amount of follow up. A dealership with a BDC is lucky to get 7 days of follow up. Without a BDC, it's 3 or 4. And I'm being lenient there because I know many of you know that you're lucky to get 1 or 2 phone calls to a lead when it comes in. It's still not the 43 days that we've isolated that across all lead providers, the average time from lead to sell is 43 days. So we're leaving a lot of stuff out there that we can't follow up with inside of our CRM because it's too cumbersome. There's too many clicks. There's too many tasks. There's too many different places to check things. And you're constantly going one task at a time to follow up with people. So our clients, for example, I'll just use one that I know of, the working pipeline customers that we've sent the ping pong ball to, hit the ping pong ball to them, they haven't replied and they're sitting there with a question. The working pipeline, we've got some clients that say have 3,000 customers in that working pipeline, that are somewhere in the buying process. Haven't replied or the conversation died out. And we need to follow up with them, and we need to figure out why did the conversation die out. So every day we use text message to follow up with that working pipeline. So for example, a working pipeline of about 3,000 leads is going to result in about a 10% reply rate, depending on what you send out. Sometimes 5, sometimes 15. Just really depends on the message that you're sending to the customer. So I want you to imagine 3,000 ping pong balls in a tree. You use text message to shake the tree. The customers that are ready to start talking start to fall out of that tree. So imagine a 10% reply rate on 3,000 customers that you just followed up with this morning. That's 300 customers that are basically, just imagine them at your door lined up waiting for someone to reply to them or call them or communicate with them instead of chasing down the customer that just submitted their information on the website. When you switch your follow-up process, you don't have to be as aggressive with your new leads to maintain your volume and even increase your volume because you've got such a long line of customers that are sitting there waiting for you to talk to them, that are ready to move to the next step. And I kind of use myself as an example all the time because I buy a lot of cars. I know you guys know I buy a lot of cars. And often I start working on something like a truck or whatever it is, and I go to Scarlett and I'm like, hey, honey, I want to buy this truck. And she slaps my bald head and says, you're not buying a truck. There's no way you're buying a truck right now. You got to wait. Well, instead of answering the phone and telling my salesperson no, because humans don't like the word no, we just ignore them until they stop calling, and usually that's a 2 or maybe 3 day. You ignore some of their phone calls, you ignore their text messages, you ignore their emails, and then eventually they're going to go away in a short period of time because they're so addicted to that new lead that's coming in that they have to move on to the next customer. So if you follow up properly and thoroughly and you use the pause feature inside of Tacoby and you use the things that we've built, you can start to build this massive funnel of customers based on when the customer wants to buy a car and not have to have pushy and aggressive sales tactics to push the customer into a car. You don't ever have a shortage of customers to talk to. You don't ever have to sit down and wonder, who am I going to call? And this process has resulted in, one of our clients has one BDC person. They used to have 7. COVID, they lost a bunch of them and they got down to 1. And then they realized that this one person could use the sales team for phone calls and she does all the texting. So her process is when the lead comes in, the first thing she sends is a video of the salesperson. She has a video of each salesperson. That way, the customer is associating the text messages that are coming to them as if they are coming from the salesperson. Then she warms up the lead. She's asking questions. She's seeing if they've got trades. She's figuring out where they fit in the funnel. Maybe it's a customer that is just getting off his lease in 6 months and doesn't really want a salesperson to call him right now. And that's no problem because she has so many other customers that want to talk, that are ready to move to the next step, that she doesn't have to push that customer and she can just put them in the proper place in the funnel to follow up with that customer. So she sends this video out to the customer as if it's the salesperson, and she's working that. And then when she's ready for the salesperson to make a phone call and she thinks that this customer is going to answer the phone, she flags in the salesperson. The salesperson gets a notification that you need to call Sally Smith. And he reads the conversation and he calls Sally Smith, and the salesperson doesn't have to do all the busy work. They don't have to go find people, and their answer rate is extremely high because these are customers that have been engaging via text message, and we know that they want to talk and continue through the process of purchasing a vehicle. And she handles about 1,100 leads a month. That's a one BDC person, and I don't know any other dealership that has a BDC person that handles 1,100 leads a month. She's done it through COVID, and they're maintaining volume, and they don't have the 6 or 7 people. That you would typically need to handle that lead volume, because they're using the salespeople for what they do best, and they're using the BDC person for what she does best. That is when you build that funnel and you build that pipeline of customers that are somewhere in the process of purchasing a car. You get to the point where your funnel's so big that you don't have to be aggressive and pushy. You don't even want to be aggressive and pushy because you have a very long line. Like there's literally not one dealer that has a solid pipeline with us that doesn't have a very long line of customers when we do a daily follow-up with the customers that are in the working pipeline. Now, granted, you have to use the pause feature. You have to follow the process that my team outlines. Otherwise, you do piss people off because you're texting them at the wrong time. You're texting the wrong message, and you don't want to just mess up your conversations. So there is a certain process to that. But in my opinion, that's what's going to save the car business. It's going to be, we have to build our funnel better so that we don't have to be aggressive and pushy. If you're a new car dealer, I don't think the OEM is going to let you much longer. I think a lot of dealers went to a transparent car buying process when COVID kind of forced them to do that. They realized that their volume could either stay the same or get better with a transparent car buying process and a smoother car buying process that isn't aggressive and pushy. And they've stayed that way. And I think a lot of the dealers that were using addendums and pricing vehicles to get volume, that sit around and beat their chest, I sell so many cars, are going to see some competition in the near future from dealers that are being very transparent, that are delivering numbers up front, that realize that the customer may not want to buy this month, and maybe they want to buy in 2 or 3 months, and they're not forcing them to do something that they don't want to do. It's all about building your funnel properly. If you build your funnel properly and you put people in the right place in the funnel, you have no shortage of customers. And I go back to this girl doing 1,100. So I thought, hey, when I asked her, I said, hey, how many leads are you handling? She said 1,100. I'm like, oh my God, this lady's got to be really stressed out and upset, because I've seen BDC people get really bitter because a lot of work's thrown on them and they can't keep up with it. They're trying and they get yelled at, but they try, and they can't keep up with it. So typically I see BDC people are overworked, and upset about their job or grumpy. So I was expecting 1,100 leads. This lady's working 12 hours a day. She hates her life. And actually she was a fucking amazing person that was really happy and excited and, looked to be happy at her job, and, even wanted to take their other stores' leads on top of the 1,100 leads that they currently handle right now. That she currently handles. She wanted to take another store's leads and throw it on top of it. That's how easy it has made her job. That's how efficient she is at her job, that even handling 1,100 leads, with me expecting that she's going to be grumpy and overworked, she wants more leads for another dealership to duplicate that process next door. So I really plead with you guys. We have to, because I'm sitting down talking to OEM execs, explaining this process, and I'm telling you, they're very aware that what happens is, if I'm that 6-month lease guy who's 6 months away from my lease expiring, and I just want to get some basic information, and I submit my information to a car dealer, and then all of a sudden I get aggressive, pushy salespeople calling and just being very aggressive and pushy and almost to the point of rude at some stores. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably go to Vroom. I'm probably going to go to Tesla. I'm probably going to go to Carvana. And they know that it's pushing market share from them. The OEMs know that that's pushing market share away from them. Don't get me wrong. I'm a salesperson at my core, and it's all about selling as much as possible. I was taught, story drops and know all the mechanics of the old school way of sales. But at the end of the day, all that really matters to me is results. If I can do something different and get a better result, then that's what matters to me. It's not necessarily doing it my way. It's doing what I think is going to get the best results and the best outcome. And I promise you that if you build your pipeline properly, you do not have to be aggressive and pushy with new leads coming into the dealership. You really just let the automation handle the new leads, figure out where the customer's at, see if they're ready to talk to someone, and your sales guys are just constantly on the phone with customers that were somewhere in the car buying process that are now falling out of the funnel, instead of so focused and aggressive and pushy on the new leads that are coming in. And you just rinse and repeat this cycle every single day. You follow up with your working pipeline. You get a couple hundred people that are falling out of the tree. You sort them where they need to go. You get your sales guys on the phone with the customers that are ready to start talking. And it just builds and builds and builds. And, we got the testimonial from Seth Wadley, who was one of the first dealers we had that used Tacoby for all of their leads. That said, hey, we're going to have our BDC girls use Tacoby for every lead that comes in. So they've got about 3 years into the process, and they've gone from 300 to 650 or 750 on months in their volume with following a different process, without having to be so aggressive and pushy with the new leads that are coming in, and really working the customers that are now starting to fall out of the funnel. There is a better way. There is a different way. And next week, what I'm going to do, I'm going to the dealership that I bought into, and I'm going to actually start working leads at the dealership, talking to customers to define a more transparent way of delivering finance information, trade information, information about the vehicle that they want to purchase, so that instead of avoiding that stuff because we have to be aggressive and pushy, we can be very transparent with that stuff because we have a long line of customers that are ready to move to the next step in the process, that I don't have to be aggressive and pushy and withhold information from the customer because I don't need to. I've got more customers that are lined up ready to talk to, and I don't need to be aggressive and pushy and withhold that information. And that's historically why we withhold information. We withhold the information because we want to see the customer in the dealership. We want to apply our traditional sales tactics on those customers, and get them in the store so that, for lack of a better term, put them through the ringer. If you ask most customers if they enjoy buying a car, I can promise you the vast consensus is no. And we have to fix that as an industry. We have to change the perception and the way customers view purchasing a vehicle. And you can still maintain high numbers and increase your volume without those aggressive and pushy sales tactics. Anyways, I wanted to jump on here, just some thoughts. If you drop any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Please share the video. I think everyone in the car business at least needs to hear this, even if they don't agree with me. Even if you don't agree with me, you at least need to hear it so that it's in your thought process, so that you're paying attention to it, so that you're aware that there might be a better way of doing this. And trust me, we're not the only company that's caught on. I now have competition. There were people at the show saying they have Tacobi-like products. And they're catching on. They're realizing that when I follow up properly, I don't have to be aggressive and pushy because I have enough customers that are ready to move to the next step without me pushing them into the next step. Anyways, make it a great day. Let's sell some cars. I hope you guys have a killer weekend and sell a lot of cars this weekend and put some dreams in driveways. Peace.